Hi everyone, welcome to this author spotlight. Today I'm joined with Sheryl Beaumont, also known as SL Beaumont. She is the author of The War Photographers, a really, really lovely book, and with some very interesting people and characters and stories. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me, Sheryl. I'm really have a chat with you.
Great, thank you for having me, Gabby.
Problem. Just so that people know a little bit about the book, can you give us a brief rundown of the story?
Sure. So The War Photographers is a dual timeline historical fiction novel. It's set in two time periods. So it's set in World War II in Britain, 1943-44. And then the second time period is in the Cold War in Europe in 1989. And it follows the story of May, who's a young British woman who's working as a code breaker at Bletchley Park. And whilst there, she's recruited to unveil a spy who the authorities believe is stealing secrets. And whilst all of this is going on, she meets a New Zealand war photographer, Jack Knight, and her world turns upside down when she falls in love with him. But when one of his photos risks unmasking the elusive double agent, tragedy strikes. And then we go 40 years into the future, and her granddaughter is working as a photojournalist in Cold War Europe. And when she gets the opportunity to visit East Berlin, she uses that as a chance to try and track down the Stasi officer who her grandmother blames for being their family.
Oh, there's a lot going on in
There's a lot going on.
I love it though. I absolutely love it. Was there something that happened in your life or that you saw that inspired the story? What was it that
well, I guess I've been long fascinated by Bletchley Park and everything that was achieved there during the war. And when I read an article about a Wellington woman who had actually worked as a code breaker at Bletchley Park, I was quite intrigued. She, like all the other men and women, who mainly women actually, who worked there, had signed the Official Secrets Act, and so they were forbidden to talk about what they did during the war at the time or after. And so she had moved to New Zealand, had her family, and had never spoken about it. And it really wasn't until the 1990s, when the site of Bletchley Park was due to be demolished and make way for a housing development, that it sort of became public knowledge what actually happened there and what they achieved. And it really, they estimate the work that breaking the Enigma code and the other codes that they cracked, cut the war by an estimated 2 years. So I was intrigued by all of this, and I thought it's actually, ripe for spies and intrigue. And as a crime writer, that's kind of cool. And so it was actually later discovered that after the war, that a couple of double agents, Soviet double agents, Kim Philby and John Cairncross, had actually worked at Bletchley for a time. So, it's truth and fiction, So I'd wanted to write a story that had a New Zealand element, and so I'd found that. And also the whole idea of a crime committed but not solved until decades later also intrigued me. So that was sort of that's how it all started.
Yeah, and it's all made for an incredibly captivating story. So kudos to you for all of that detective work. I've noticed that the writing style is very captivating. It drew me in from page one, and I just wanted to keep
great.
it. Yes. So I just want to know, where did you learn to write like that? Was it something that was just natural to you? Did you seek kind of advice?
Well, I've always written stories. It's something I've always done. It was about 10 years ago I decided I was actually going to, take it seriously and do something with it. And I did a writing course back then, which got me started. And since then, I've worked with editors and copy editors and people like that have actually helped me develop my style and find my voice and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just, it's evolved.
Definitely. I think that obviously it sounds like it is natural, but you have taken the advice from people who also know how to hone their skills. And they've just helped you, they've elevated you. That's fantastic.
That's right. And the whole idea of crafting a story and pace and character and all of those things.
Yeah, fantastic. People often say that authors base their characters off themselves to some extent. Who in this book do you think is the closest to you?
I don't think I consciously have done that. I'm certainly not as brave as Rachel, who set herself into all sorts of situations. But I do probably share her curiosity of the world and what's going on and what's happening. I love history and that sort of thing, obviously. I think the character of Jack, actually, I based off my own father, Jack, who, like men of that generation, they just got on with it. They just did what they needed to do and what had to be done without grumbling and without, with all that self sort of sacrifice and that sort of thing. So he helped inspire him.
Wow, that's really good. I mean, yeah, if they're not related to you specifically, then they're related to someone that you know. And
yes.
that makes for a really good, compelling, strong character. So
yeah, and the character of Rachel, I was inspired by a lot of, there's several women photojournalists in the 1980s, because in the 1980s it was still a very male-dominated industry. And there were some groundbreaking women like Margaret Fleet, or New Zealander, actually, Margaret Moth, who was in Sarajevo reporting. And these groundbreaking, sort of glass ceiling smashing women, Rachel was inspired by them.
I love that. I love that. Do you have any more books like this in the works at all, like sequels or spin-offs or anything like that?
No, this one is definitely a standalone, but I have been bitten by the historical fiction bug, so I can see myself writing another one. I'm currently working on the third in a financial thriller series that I've written, the Cat Munro thrillers. But once that's finished, yeah, I think I'll be back looking at more sort of historical stuff, obviously in the guise of a crime novel.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Do you have any advice for other budding authors who maybe, want to do the same things as you or similar, but just can't quite push it across the line?
I don't know. I guess that the advice that I was given at the start was just write. Just get what's in your head down on paper, on a screen, because only then can you actually work on it, develop it, flesh it out. Until you've got that draft down on paper, it's really hard to actually do anything. And then when you get it as good as you can get it, seek help, get a good editor, get people to beta read it, and you just work on it until you get it as good as you can.
Yes, because I mean that is the hardest thing to do. I think in most situations, is just start it, because it's such a huge process. But once you started. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. I would actually be really curious to know what kind of books you're reading at the moment. Like, who are your go-to authors? Do you have a specific genre that you like to read?
I read reasonably widely. I've actually just finished Trent Dalton's Lola in the Mirror, which is he's got such a unique storytelling style, and it's a kind of it's a gritty sort of, what would you say, gritty, heartwarming story of a girl and her mother on the run from the law, and so it's a great story. I very much admire him. I enjoyed Boy Swallows University. Put out, that's just been made into a Netflix series. That was very good. Historical fiction, I've read quite a bit. Natasha Lester would be a go-to. And I enjoyed Lessons in Chemistry, Bonnie Garmus, about Elizabeth Zott, the research chemist who found herself the star of a 1960s TV cooking show, and that was quite a darkly funny look at feminism. I quite enjoyed that. So no, I read quite a few. J.K. Rowling, I've always enjoyed the Robert Galbraith series of crime novels. So I enjoy reading.
Yeah, you do. Like, that is a wide range of stories, and that's fantastic. I think it also gives you a really good perspective when writing your own stories, that you don't just focus on tropes. You have a bunch of different places to draw from. So
yeah.
Okay, well, you know what? Thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been
all right, Gabby.
It's been lovely, and I'm really enjoying your book. I think everyone needs to pick it up and just have a wee read of it, because it's really, really masterfully written. So,
thank you.
The War Photographers. your must go to read. Okay.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you so much.